Hello and welcome. Quick tour around the garden. Just to tell you, it's actually late September, so there's plenty of stuff going on. But that said, there's still plenty of interest. Go back, January 22 is when we moved in. This garden slopes, and probably from this area near the house to the end of the garden, it's nearly 2 meters difference. So the first thing I had to do was put in this terrace in, and interesting thing, because the house faces north, the first terrace had to be quite deep, so we had to push really into the garden so that we can have a seating area that literally got a decent amount of sun. But of course what that did is it made this first area really large, and I didn't want to come out of the front door and come into just a huge terrace. So that's why this border's here. So now you're stopped in your tracks. Well, where do you go? I'm not going through it. I've got to go around. But also here, I start to drive the planting. For me, a lot of it's about texture, foliage, form and finish. You've got geraniums, astrantias. What sort of leaves are starting to play? Well, they get picked up on the next layer. And the amelanchier there frames the view, but as I said, just pulls me around that next space. I suppose the next thing design-wise is that connection between the two terraces. So here I've gone big and broad with the steps, and it just means that it's comfortable. You're not coming up tight little steps. And then this next bit, well, in all honesty, it was a little bit awkward because that wall there is the back of the garages. So this area can feel quite close to the house, whereas over this side, it runs back, you know, probably another sort of 15, 20 meters. But this is really long, and that was the key really driving there and there. So here we've got the little office, and then behind you there, I've got this seating area. So once they're in place, this rectangle's made an awful lot of sense. So the path here picks up on the other side. And the lawn-wise, I didn't need one because all the kids don't need to kick around. So I was all right to put in an unkept lawn. And the bit that's blown my mind with that is actually how much wildlife have come in this year and used it. And I suppose once I've got that layer in, the planting starts to develop, and then I have little focal points, maybe a large pot, pots outside the office, and they're all things, I suppose, when you move around, you're drawn from A to B to C, enjoy a few pots, a little feature, have a moment, and then move on again. So that area we've just left is the biggest flat area I've got in the garden. And then the next jump is about 1 meter. So that's a lot of steps. So what I want to do is slow people down, get a little bit more out of that. So though this is a tiny little space, what I've done is widen this wall. That's given me an opportunity to put all the succulents, which means I can carry on with the collection. But on top of that, because they look so good to look down on, it just slows that movement up the steps. And so once you've enjoyed these, then it's off to the gravel garden. So now we've made it to my little gravel garden. Probably my favourite place in the garden. So imagine you come through the arches. The steps are then broken, so there's planting, but the focal point is a seating over the other side there. So I really want to draw you in, but if I put anything too tall here, it starts to overpower the lower space because we're 2 meters above the lower terrace. So tree-wise, just the two corners mass. And then we've got the underplanting. And I live in a dry part of the country, so that is what suits this sort of gravel planting. Things like the orangiums, you know, even the gingers up here, they deal with the winter, nephophias, sedums, all those sort of plants that actually in reality will hold form going right into the winter. And then you've got little stepping stones up, step up again, and then we're off into the greenhouse area. So now you're in the engine room. This is where all the work goes on, especially earlier on in the year when I'm prepping seeds, growing on, hardening things off for the veg garden. My greenhouse is 8 foot by about 10 foot, so not huge, not small. At the moment, the aubergines, the tomatoes and the chilies. I remember last year in the programme I was lifting the canopy of hedges and underplanting. But this area is lovely. It's tucked away, it's at the end of the garden, but early in the morning it gets the sun. Most of what's grown in there earlier in the year makes it out to the veg garden. But I wanted that veg garden to be diverse. So as you come up the steps, there's a herb garden on one side, there's some pear trees, wildflower. That sets the tone. You arrived, you're in somewhere that's a little bit different. And then we've got the main veg garden, which is the veg in straight lines, little raised beds. But now I'm starting to add more ornamental planting. So I want it to be jungle-like out there. I want to edibles and the ornamentals, so it holds your interest. And I think outside of the gravel garden, that is my favourite space to be. Saturday and Sunday, you will find me out there. And you're probably going around looking, watching what we've done. And some of this garden is definitely scruffy around the edges. It's not all tidy. And that is for a reason. This garden is about me. It's about my family. But on top of that, it's about wildlife. And that, going forward, that diversity that we put in our gardens is ever so important. So don't worry about being too tidy. Just get your hands in the soil and enjoy your garden. All right, hope you enjoyed it.